Good evening, members. Please remain standing while my chaplain and friend Andrew says a few words.
As we begin this new civic year, I invite you to pause for a moment.
Thanks, Andrew. Can we get the members in, please, now? Let's indulge me for a little while and remain standing, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Members, I'd just like to indulge myself, and I'd like to observe a minute's silence for Hannah Williams, who was a friend to this council and a great champion for our cultural sector. So if you don't mind, we could have a minute's silence for Hannah Williams. Please be seated. Right, members, the first item on business of the agenda this evening is for apologies for absence. Councillor Harvey, do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Cubitt.
Councillor Gavin James, do we have any apologies?
Sorry, you here. I have apologies for...
Meadows-Bowen, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor McIntyre and Councillor Carr.
Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lee.
Right. Item 2, do we have any declarations of interest, members? I take that as a no. Item 3, minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of March. Are members content and happy that I can sign that as a correct record of the minutes of the 20th of March, those that were in attendance? Okay. Deputy the second? Agreed? Okay. Item 4, Mayor to make any announcements? None at the moment. On to item 5, membership of the Cabinet. Councillor Harvey, can you announce your Cabinet, please?
I'll keep this brief, Mr. Mayor. Cabinet is listed on the order paper as printed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 6 is the allocation of seats to political groups as per the proportionality. And that is for me to move. Are we in agreement?
You need seconded first.
Apparently I seconded first. Deputy, yeah. And are we in agreement? Item 7, appointment of committees. Are there any changes to the committees as attached on the update paper? Leaders? No? You're still looking at them, or have we agreed? I'm waiting for some sort of agreement, members. Election of committee chairs. First committee is the Environment and Infrastructure Committee. I have a nomination for Councillor West. Are there any more nominations? That's agreed then, Councillor West. You've been elected. Resident Services, there's a nomination for Councillor Tustain. Are we agreed on that? Okay. Resources Committee, we've got a nomination for Councillor Isaac. Are there any more nominations? No? All agreed? Audit and Accounts Committee, got a nomination for Councillor Basham. Are there any more nominations? Agreed. Development Control Committee, I have nominations for Councillor Durant and Councillor McCormick. Are there any more nominations? So, looks like we'll have to go for a vote for this one then. And that's a recorded vote, is it? Or a show of hands. What do we want? They want to record it. So I've just been advised that the way that the system works is you're going to have 2 votes, yes or no, for each candidate, and then we'll count those. Councillor Jones.
It'd be easier just raising your hands, I'm sure that someone's...
So, I mean, I had a proposition from Councillor Basham that he wanted to record a vote. Are you happy to rescind that?
I'm not actually, Mr. Mayor. I'm still disgruntled that we've had electronic votes over the last 6 to 12 months and they weren't recorded. And I thought that they were all being recorded, and maybe that's my omission and my misunderstanding. I did raise it at the last council meeting. I would like electronic votes all season.
Okay. So
We can do a recorded vote with
Yeah.
a hand show, but it'll take some time because they're going to have to record.
yeah. So the understanding is we can do a recorded vote with a show of hands, and my colleagues from Democratic Services will take the recorded. Yes. So we just do a recorded vote for Councillor Durant first then. Yeah? Right then, members, can we have a show of hands for Councillor Durant? And that's me as well, by the way. We're nearly there.
It's going to take a couple of minutes.
Yeah. Right. Nearly there.
All right. Yeah.
Members, can we now have a vote, show of hands for Councillor McCormick, please? I think you put your hands down, apparently. Are the votes in?
So Councillor Dallin. Councillor Dallin has been chair.
Councillor Durrant has been appointed as Chair of Development Control,
24 to 20.
24 to 21. Moving on to the Human Resources Committee, I've got a nomination for Councillor James. Do we want
I was
to?
going to nominate Councillor Bowes, but you may have got it via.
I've just got it written down here, mate. You're just. Please. I'm on top of the job here.
I'm very impressed, Mr. Mayor.
Anyway, as I was saying, Councillor James, Human Resources Committee, I've got a nomination for Councillor Bowes. Are there any nominations? Agreed. Okay. On the Licensing Committee, I've got a nomination for Councillor Jones, T. Jones. Are there any more nominations? That sounds like that's agreed. On the Standards Committee, I've got a nomination for Amanda Povey. Are there any more nominations? That's agreed. And on the Investigating Disciplinary and Standards Appeals Committee, I've got a nomination for Councillor Howard Sorrell. Are there any more nominations? That's great then. We know that the vice chairs will be appointed by the committees at their first available meeting after the annual meeting of the council. Let's move on to the appointment to joint bodies. The first one is the Joint Many-Down Committee to appoint 4 members. We currently have nominations for Councillor Cubitt, Julian Jones, and Andrew Freeman and Xander West. Are there any more nominations? Sounds like you're all elected. Okay. The Crime and Disorder Joint Security Committee. So, is it? All right. Sorry, I didn't read it properly. The Crime and Disorder Joint Scrutiny Committee. We need to appoint 3 members, and at the moment we've got nominations for Councillor Hart and Councillor Miller. Are there any more nominations?
Yes, Mr Mayor, normally this should be going to the Lib Dem group. However, we have the portfolio holder who has regular communications. I also think it's important that we get the wider spectrum of views, both politically and different kinds of communities. And therefore, I'd like to unusually not take the Lib Dem place and nominate Councillor Jackie Testain.
Are there any more nominations? Looks like you 3 are elected. We've got the parking traffic regulations outside London Education Joint Committee. Councillor T. Jones is the current nomination. He doesn't want to stand, so we need other nominations for this role. Have we got a nomination for this position? Do we leave it blank? We're going to have to leave that one blank then if no one wants to come forward. On the Hampshire Police and Crime Panel, there are no nominations required. We need to reconfirm the appointment of Councillor Mackay and Councillor Basham. Is that agreed? Right, now we're moving on to the appointment of outside bodies. The nominations are on the attached update paper. Are there any other nominations to those listed on the update paper?
Are you doing one at a time, or are you just doing them all?
No, just listen. Are there any other nominations to those listed on the update paper? So
Yes.
what? So?
Yes.
There is? Come on then.
Yes, unfortunately I didn't do my homework properly. So AWE Liaison Committee, I'd like to, Councillor Bounds and Councillor Slimin would like to renew their roles on that one.
Okay, but are there any changes to what's on the paper?
They're nominated because I think they're up for renewal because they're at the end of term.
Oh yeah, but what you're doing is preempting what I've got to say, which was.
This is going to be a long year, Mr Mayor.
I'm only a week in, mate. Give it a chance. Look, I propose to take a vote on all those outside bodies where there are more nominations than seats in turn. Are we agreed on the others? So, Councillor Moynihan.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I'm trying to make it easier for you. We're going to withdraw Councillor Miller from Basingstoke Air Cadet, so that adds another one to the list that's not contested.
Okay. So, the point I just made was, are we happy that apart from the 2 or 3 that have got more than one candidate, the others are agreed? That's what I wanted you to say. Sorry, Councillor James, it might be a long year. Are there any changes to your existing members that you haven't put
Well,
forward?
Mr Mayor, I was about to say before you interrupted me that no, we'd like to roll over all the Lib Dems that are listed as current representatives would like to continue in their roles.
That's what I wanted you to say. Okay then, so we've got about 3 where we need votes for. And, well, what about that one as well? So the first one is the North Wessex Downs National Landscape. Last year was represented by me, and we have 2 nominations. One is for Councillor Ashfield and one is for Councillor Miller. Do we want a recorded vote or are we going to have a show of hands? Show of hands. Right. Could we have a vote for Councillor Ashfield? Could we have...
Hold on.
I think you put your hands down. Can we have a vote for Councillor Miller?
Carried for councillor.
That is carried for Councillor Ashfield. And the last one is Safe East Employers, which has got 2 vacancies and 2 deputies. So we're going to take a vote one at a time on the two vacancies, and then obviously the 2 that are not elected get the deputy role. Yeah? So we're going to take a vote on...
You do vacancy, you'll do vacancy 1.
Yeah. So we got a vacancy 1. The nominations are Councillor Isaac, Councillor West and Councillor Cubitt.
You just check if they want to show their hands.
And do we want a show of hands again? Show of hands? So, the first one is for Councillor Isaac. And what are we doing next? What are we doing next then? That's what we're doing next.
You do.
Councillor Isaac.
Vote on 2 vacancies is quite confusing.
Sorry?
A three-way vote on 2 vacancies makes this quite difficult.
Come on.
So,
Yeah, there's Councillor West, we take a vote for each candidate in turn, and there'll be 2 full votes. Hope you understand. Yeah?
vote twice.
So you can vote twice. So that's, still got hands up for Councillor Isaac. You can take them down.
Sorry, can we vote twice in this first one?
No, once. Next vote is for Councillor West.
See what I mean?
So the 2 with the highest vote get voted on, basically.
No,
Yeah.
the 1 with the highest vote
Yeah.
gets, and then
Yeah.
you've got to do a second vote.
Yeah. Are we happy that we got them?
Yeah.
We recorded them. The next one is for Councillor Cubitt. You can't vote twice, surely. You can't vote twice. They can't vote twice, can they? You can only vote once.
On each.
You can only vote once.
Mr. Mayor, would you explain?
Voted twice, we're going to have to do it again.
If it, say it again, Russ. So,
Do you want to ask me to explain it?
Mr.
the
Mayor,
chief executive.
would you take the vote again? I think we're confused.
And put it on here.
So just to explain the process, so there are 2 vacancies, so they're 2 completely separate votes. So you'll vote for the 3 candidates on the first vacancy. You can only vote once on that vacancy. There will then be a separate vote on the second vacancy, and you will vote for the remaining 2. So you can't vote twice in the same vacancy. So we will start again.
Right then. Are you happy? Members, are you happy to start this process again? Can we then have a show of hands for Councillor Isaac? Councillor Isaac. Have we got them?
Yeah.
Can we now have a show of hands for Councillor West? Jack? he's got it. Anne. And thirdly, can we have a show of hands for Councillor Cubitt?
So it's carried, Councillor Cubitt is
Yeah,
appointed
and then
to the first vacancy.
Right. For a bit of clarity, Councillor Cubitt has been elected on the first vacancy, so the next vote is going to be between Councillor Isaac and Councillor West. Could we now vote for Councillor Isaac? I'm getting lost here. We got them.
Next candidate.
And now can we have a vote for Councillor West?
So carried for Councillor.
That's carried for Councillor West, so I deduce that Councillor Isaac and Councillor Jones will be the deputies. That concludes the rather painful election to outside bodies. Item 11, questions from members of the public. The first question is question 1 from Mr Simpson. We come to the microphone, please, Mr Simpson. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, good evening, everybody. My name is Marcus Simpson, and I've lived in Southam for 26 years. The question is, can the relevant committee chair, member or councillor confirm that the below version of the Memorandum of Understanding between Basingstoke and Deane Borough Council and SNG is hereby struck out pending the introduction of enhanced governance for the regeneration project to address the improvements in the points below? And then there are: improve governance of the regeneration by involving Bash residents in the governance process that oversees the regeneration. Relocate those private home owners whose land is commingled with the majority of SNG owned land. Ensure full disclosure of the to-be post-regeneration estate layout for Bash on a road-by-road basis so it is clear which residents are impacted. Cost the trade-off of the private profit made from CPOing privately owned land to support or fully recover the cost to build the social housing. Enshrine open book accounting principle where the private profit is baselined and compared to that base throughout the project life cycle, with subpoints: present fully costed plans, outline timescales in a Gantt chart, state the mix of existing properties and what the to-be mix is, so that if there is more private housing, its profit is known and earmarked for profit share. For those properties impacted, establish the fair profit share needed to enable their owners to make a like-for-like home elsewhere. Clearly state the profit share is the fairest and most transparent way to ensure that the regeneration is seen to be in the public interest, and to ensure that SNG and the Hill Group, by adopting the above improved governance processes, may satisfy BDBC that the use of its CPO powers is in the public interest, and that this is the Council's preferred and most transparent method of demonstrating in the public interest to residents. And that's the end of my question.
Thank you very much, Mr Simpson. Councillor Harvey, would you like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's good to see you, Marcus, and thank you for the question. You've reached out, and I thank you for that, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and continuing our conversation on many of these points in some detail. It's important to recognise that SNG are going to reset the conversation with residents in Southam and Buckskin. The opportunity for investment in the community and to see that benefit communities across Southam and Buckskin is a once-in-a-generation prospect. SNG have heard the community's voice loud and clear. They've undertaken consultation and engagement already with over 1,300 people at their events, but they respect what they have heard, and Marcus, what you are saying here is part of that. I know that they have already engaged with you and want to engage more with all residents, and they propose a summer of engagement so that they can listen, hear, and then actively work with the community to genuinely co-design what comes next. Residents need to own the way forward. Things like the MOU are always under review, and it is yet to be finalised. The important point for us to remember is the need that so many people have for improvements to their homes, for new investment in shops and community facilities like the Westside Community Centre, and so much more. But again, I stress this needs to be co-designed. The many different communities in Southam and Buckskin need to be heard and feel part of the process and understand the opportunity. SNG recognise this and want to expand the co-design work they have done and involve many more people, as many want to be involved, as you said yourself, Marcus. They are going door to door. They are proposing to undertake a deep listening programme over the summer. They want to hear from people with their questions. Let me address the concerns of people. It is important that we all support residents to understand SNG's reset, that they're not scared by things that might be said that are untrue, either through canvassing or leaflets or rumours on social media. It's also important to recognise that SNG have listened and are establishing a dedicated local team of people and tradespeople to meet residents' expectations of better maintenance and better service from SNG. This is a significant move on their part. The way forward to benefit people is to work together to support residents. So the points you raise here, Marcus, need to be addressed by SNG. We have already facilitated meetings with residents, and I'm very happy to arrange for you to meet with them so that we can see these questions discussed fully and respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Simpson, do you have a supplementary question?
Oh, yes. Yes, please, yeah. So basically, I'd like to clarify then that at the moment, that memorandum does not include the power for the council to use its CPO powers at this point in time.
The council has a set of powers that it is given by government in legislation. Legally, we cannot rule out receiving a request to consider, but we have not received a request. SNG have made no request. And in 23 years, I don't know of the council ever using these powers in this way. And any use must have a very strong case to show it is in the community's interests. Now, any suggestion other than that would be deliberately misleading people and scaremongering, and that's not being responsible. So it is important that we take these questions, that we sit with SNG, and we have a discussion respectfully, that we go through them in detail, and that you have the answers that you're seeking.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks. Next, question 2 is from Jenny Levy on behalf of Gillian Smallman, the Chair of Natural Basingstoke, to Councillor Tomlin.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Levy, speaking on behalf of Natural Basingstoke and Greener Basingstoke, who both groups strongly support the motion in item 16 about chalk streams. Can you please advise the next steps that will be taken to progress rapidly towards protecting our irreplaceable chalk streams and their valuable adjacent landscape? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jenny, thank you very much for your question. There is clearly much to be considered to take this mammoth task forward, and I certainly support the Rights of Rivers motion wholeheartedly. The quality of our rivers should be of grave concern to all of us. So assuming the members of this House support the motion later this evening, then after the Council, the matter will be raised at Cabinet. They will come to a view on how best to progress, what information is required, who can supply the data, and what powers the Council have to act. They will then set a course of action, and I look forward to working with my colleagues and indeed our community volunteers to progress outcomes as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Do you have a supplementary, Jenny?
Yes. Within that, will council be pushing for the government to publish the chalk stream recovery pack, which was never published and has now been shelved? This pack may well give clear indication about the best actions for maintaining and protecting chalk streams.
Thank you for your question again. Yes, indeed, we will. We'll be lobbying. That's part of that is a power we all have, is to lobby the government to make sure that we get an answer from them at the very least. So, yes, we totally support that and we'll be actioning that as soon as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 3 is from Mr. Bates to Councillor Tomlin again.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor and members. Andy Bates. The Gailey Brook in Kingsclear is a rare chalk stream, not only rare in the UK but globally. Increasing pressures from reduced water flow and human interference have significantly depleted the rich and vibrant ecology which once called this river its home. As a riparian landowner for over 22 years and chair of the Kingsclear Community Association, I have observed the degradation of the brook, starved of its natural wildlife and natural flow, both of which are considered fundamental within the Declaration for River Rights, previously mentioned. Fish and other wildlife are now absent from the once beautiful mill pond, which is now silt-clogged, and in the summer months a fly-infested eyesore. KCA, Greener Kingsclear, Southern Water and Environment Agency recently met with over 100 residents regarding their ongoing plans to restore the vibrant ecology of the brook, inspired by Councillor Conquest and facilitated by myself. Southern Water and their partners concluded that 30% of the natural stream flow is removed by water processing from boreholes and returned downstream by the Thames Water Treatment Plant. Kingsclear, you may not know, is isolated from the mains water system and relies solely on these boreholes, on borehole water from the same aquifer which feeds the springs at the head of Gailey Brook. Intervention from experts suggests that we are at an inflection point between Gailey Brook being a sterile watercourse or returning to a beautiful local natural asset. As a community association, KCA has agreed to be a charitable vehicle to help to galvanise support and encourage volunteer activity. Our question to the Council as a community is, will the Borough work alongside Southern Water, the Environment Agency and the Kingsclear community to reverse the degradation of the Gailey Brook and other local chalk streams to support increased protections for chalk streams and accelerate the planned restoration efforts? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Tomlin, would like to respond?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andy, if I may call you Andy. So many thanks again for your question and your clear commitment to this important matter for the community and the borough as a whole. Given the importance of the borough's water environment, the Council will protect and enhance its qualities and support the River Basin Management Plan's objectives for improving the state of the borough's water bodies within the Thames and the South Eastern basins. The motion later tonight will support us to look at all of the natural water infrastructure within our borough, which will certainly include Gailey's Brook. The Council is keen to support any work which meets this key objective, and therefore I'm very interested in what your partnership and the body that you represent is seeking to achieve, and I would be open to a further discussion, including relevant Council officers, should you feel that a meeting with us together would be of future benefit. So thank you again for your question.
Mr. Bates, do you have a supplementary question?
My only supplementary question for the record was I was going to ask that we could meet with the borough outside the formal process to work on that. So that's been answered magnificently. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. On to item 12 on the agenda, which is petitions. We've no petitions received, so that's killed that one off. Item 13, as per the agenda, I'd like to move the dispensation for Councillor Eachus. Do I have a seconder? Seconder. All in favour? Thank you very much. Item 14, 15 and 16 are motions tonight. Item 14 is from Councillor West.
press the right button. So just before I introduce the motion, I'd just like to thank the councillors who have been in touch with me, particularly Jenny Rocks and Councillor Harvey, who have both collaborated with me to make sure that this is in the best possible format. Also thank the officers for helping to get some of the wording right. I won't go into too much detail right now. I think that I'd be really interested to hear people's thoughts. I think the only key thing for me to say at this stage is that a lot of us in this chamber have identified this issue, we've diagnosed this issue, we've said that we've got empty units in the top of town, we've got empty units in parts of our borough, and that it's an ongoing issue. We don't love that it creates antisocial behaviour, we don't love that it kind of degrades the overall look of the town and the overall feel of the town, the way people feel about it. And this is finally a chance for us to actually do something about that. It's not just a cure for that problem, but it's also a deterrent for that problem becoming larger in the future. And I'd really appreciate your support on this motion. And interested to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Councillor Ibrahim, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I will reserve mine to the end. Thank you.
Any speakers on this matter? Councillor Isaac.
Good evening, Mr Mayor. I agree, empty shops are a problem across the country. Basingstoke, however, is less badly affected than most parts of the UK. For instance, at the Malls, owned by this council, there are 4 empty units, but all of these are either under offer or have good interest. High business rates and the switch to internet shopping, now 25% of the total, are the main causes of vacancies. This motion is well intended, but likely to be harmful in practice. Most landlords are not blocking lettings and in fact have to pay full rates on empty units, so have a big incentive to let them. There are better ways for this council to help tenants and attract new investment into our borough. Councillors need to understand the impact of this legislation. Units empty for more than 12 months could be made subject to an auction process that our officers would have to carry out. Our officers could have to take responsibility for surveying the premises and obtaining all the documents and even taking legal action to force a reluctant or broke landlord to spend money on improvements to make the premises lettable. Council officers would then have to handle the marketing, including preparing the detailed auction contract setting out these terms. It may be possible to get a successful bidder, if there is one, to pay our costs, but there's no guarantee. And what would be the outcome? Probably either no bidders, because the property is really not in the state to let or happens to be in a poor location, or a tenant is signed up by this council that the landlord doesn't want. A potential business relationship from hell. There could be a huge and difficult workload added to our officers for little result. Do we want to send a message to landlords investing in Basingstoke that this council will effectively seize your property if for some reason you can't let an empty unit in 12 months, which is not much time in property terms, and in the process lower rental value so that the valuation of other premises is reduced? Investors might start to decide to give us a wide berth. The market is not perfect, but it is better than this. At Festival Place, rents over the past few years have been slashed by 40 to 50% by the owners in response to the falling market demand. But steadily, new tenants are being secured. Footfall is now back to pre-COVID levels, I understand. The amendment that's proposed tonight could be viewed as favouring larger landlords, including ourselves as owners of the malls, and discriminating against smaller landlords. The distinction made in the amendment doesn't resolve that problem. However enticing this motion may seem, I would urge councillors not to take the easy populist way out, but to be responsible and to reject it.
Thank you, Councillor Isaac. Councillor Vogt. She's on the list. She's on the list, but we've got everybody on the list. Councillor Vogt.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. So I read this motion with interest, and I thank Councillor West for the discussions we have had prior to this meeting and the subsequent alteration to this motion. I agree that seeing empty and boarded up shops around the top of town in Basingstoke and in some of our district centres deters people from visiting the area, often leads to littering, poor maintained buildings, antisocial behaviour and then more retail outlets closing. It becomes a spiral of decay. I can see why the High Street Rental Auctions initiative can be a very useful tool where landlords are not actively managing their properties, potentially offering those opportunities to local people, charities and small organisations to use that space temporarily. Where I have concerns, however, are the unintended consequences of high street rental auctions. This non-statutory guidance gives councils considerable powers to forcibly intervene at significant cost to the owner if a retail outlet hasn't been let in 12 months. 12 months sounds a long time, but it isn't when negotiating with large retail chains. Often a retailer will negotiate with multiple shopping centres and take these to near conclusion before selecting one and dropping the rest. Meanwhile, there are considerable costs in these vacant units, so the incentives to the managers and the owners to ensure maximum occupancy are very high. So I'm a Chinham councillor. The Chinham Shopping Centre is a highly valued asset, frequently visited by our local community and attracts shoppers from across the borough, primarily coming to the Tesco store and then often visiting other retail and food outlets in the centre, as well as the library. It is owned by one company, other than the library, which is Hampshire County Council owned. Parking is free and it has EV charging points. The retail mix is a very important thing to get right, so it creates a thriving centre. It has a mix of national chains which draw in the majority of shoppers such as Tesco, Matalan, M&S, Boots and now recently Savers. It has local charity shops, estate agents, national and local cafes and restaurants, a pet shop, it goes on. Empty retail units are often used temporarily by groups and others to hold seasonal activities. Now, there are empty units there, and we'd all like to see them occupied, but there is a natural turnover, and it seems to be unavoidable for places like Chinham. So I was very concerned that this well-intentioned initiative would undermine the viability of places like the Chinham Shopping Centre, adding uncertainty to what is an already challenging business environment. And I'm therefore very appreciative of the alteration offered by Councillor West and will therefore be supporting this motion in the full expectation that it will be used wisely and carefully to revitalise neglected retail areas in our borough for the benefits of our local communities and enable our actively managed centres like Chinham and Festival Place to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vo. Councillor Gavin James.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've read the guidance. I haven't read the amendment until tonight, but I've read the guidance on this, and many of the issues that Councillor Isaac has raised are there. There is actually a funding scheme, so if we were to go through this process, we can apply up to £5,100. You know as much about property as anyone in this room. When was the last time you saw a property deal done that's gone through court twice for £5,000? Possibly never, or not since you were in your 30s. But I think whilst it's well-intentioned motion, and there are some good ideas within the HRSA powers, there are also some concerns. How do we know for sure a property has been empty that we don't own? That's a lot of time on our property team, not only looking after the property, not only putting solar panels on roofs, not only doing lots of lease re-gears and also trying to do lease negotiations, things like the ice rink, not only dealing with potential changes to open space to put in golf holes and things like that. They do an awful lot already. This is an extra burden, so there's a budgetary implication for doing that. It's also not clear from the legislation what happens if the landlord, because you've got to have the property in a reasonable condition, or minimum standard, I think they call it. If the property is in a very poor standard, and often it is, because landlords who can't let it will often let it get to a poor standard to escape business rates, it's not clear then what happens if they cannot afford to put the property back into place. There are, I want to use those three letters that we're getting quite twitchy about, CPO powers that we do have in separate legislation, but that gives us a knackered shop. And taxpayers' money spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on the shop to refurbish it, to rent it out very cheaply. And as a council, we have to choose, do we want to refurbish our play areas or refurbish shops to let out at a loss? So I think there's a lot more to think about than what's in this motion. So I do think it's very worthy that we take this away. It will come to Cabinet. So I shall support this, but where it says Cabinet, apply promptly, that promptly may not be quite as promptly as you'd like, because we do need to look at it, take it away, have a look at it, and we will get it back before a committee once officers have done some work on it. So it will be coming, but it may take a little bit longer because we cannot just sign up to something that may have huge budget implications for the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morris-Bain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Councillor James just said, while I recognise the good intent behind the motion, I will not be supporting it. The high street rental auction scheme may be relevant in areas where town centres have collapsed or retail has completely died off. We know there are many of those up and down the country, but that is not the situation here in Basingstoke-on-Deane. Instead, we should support the landlords and partners already working to keep our centres vibrant, safe and future ready. So while I certainly agree with many of the comments that have been made, we need to support those local businesses. I have spoken to many of those businesses that have invested in places like the top of town, and they have led me to believe that currently the HSRA scheme may not be the right tool for this borough, however well intended this motion is, and in fact the scheme may be in its current form. I reserve my right to not support the motion, but to say, frankly, my view may change once we see the details and how we might be able to implement that scheme locally. I think this motion is just a little premature. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This broadly seems like a positive scheme. I do think it's more key to areas, as some have said, that genuinely are ghost towns. They also tend to be the most deprived areas. While there is an historic perception that the top of town is empty, that's a little bit outdated these days. This administration has done a really good job of revitalising the town centre, and the officers have done and continue to do great work in encouraging occupancy and stimulating footfall via grant schemes and such. So we already are doing quite a bit. That does mean we could end up doing quite a lot of work for not a lot of reward. However, I was particularly intrigued by elements of this, which cite the ability for a local authority to restrict the use of a particular property beyond its planning use class, which the element of the scheme has placemaking in mind. In other words, in the event that the scheme is utilised and a recalcitrant landlord is gotten around and their property goes up for auction, we have some potential scope for curating what we would like to go in there or not to go in there. I'm sure I'm not the only recipient of emails here complaining about the occasionally homogenous nature of some of the town centre. So that does interest me. The scheme itself is a little woolly on the mechanisms of this, but personally where there's potential scope for trying something, I'm one for having a punt at it. So I will vote for the motion. I think it would be good to see it referred back to committee. In the first instance, to see if it's really necessary, in our case, how many empty units we're actually talking about across the borough, to deal with some of the issues that people have raised this evening. And then in the event that it is, and that we can deal with those, to explore the class use flexibility in the scheme with a bit of curation in mind. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Freeman.
There we go. Apologies. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. I'm sure many of my residents are familiar with the Three Barrels site in the Winkelbury Centre. It's a very unsafe building site. We have had numerous issues. Only last year, a child was electrocuted by live wires that were left hanging outside. This building is not safe. The owner has refused many offers because he wasn't offered enough money for the place, including a medical centre. The place is an eyesore and it's a danger to the public. So only last week it was broken into and the door was left off, meaning kids could get in there. And I think this motion and these powers will actually be very useful in a situation like that to force owners that are completely neglectful, like the situation with the Three Barrels, so that we can improve that area. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Councillor Basham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm undecided how I'm going to vote on this. I've listened to the arguments both sides. I just wanted to bring members' attention to a couple of things that have been going through my head while I've been listening. I was at a police conference last week, and there were a lot of presentations about some of the things that, some of the successes in Hampshire. One of them was around somewhere called the Ocean Hotel, which I think was in Sandown. And they had arson there, they had repeated ASB centred around the Ocean Hotel, which was on the seafront, and they had a recalcitrant landlord who refused to do anything to secure the premises and so on. So I think about, we don't have that problem here in Basingstoke. However, should we get a property that is causing problems, then I would like our officers to have all of the tools in the toolbox available to them to use if appropriate. And I guess that leads me on to the next point, which is that we can explore this, and I would like Cabinet to explore it, and we can adopt or take on the toolbox, but we don't have to use it, and we don't have to use it after 12 months. We may choose to use it after 24 months or 36 months, etc. And in that context, I know that we have statutory powers to bring empty homes into use. We have 3 homes in my ward that have been empty for a very long time, and I know that colleagues and officers have been working on bringing those properties back into use for housing stock. And the practical realities are that it's not very easy to do at all, to the extent that we haven't succeeded in doing it. And these properties have been empty for a very long time. So I would just say, I would encourage you to think about empowering our officers to keep this borough at the top of its game, really. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In thinking about the motion and thinking about what's actually happening in the town centre at the moment, I want to talk about our officers and the work that they're doing, because the officer team at the moment and the relationship we have with our town centre businesses is extremely strong. Listening to them and bringing forward the proposals we did in the budget around parking, listening to those businesses and bringing forward proposals around grants for their shop fronts and outdoor seating, listening to those businesses and bringing forward proposals for the fit out and the support for new businesses opening, all part of a listening relationship with those businesses to hear their voice and then try and translate that into policy in this place. When we take this forward, if we do, the issue is going to be the detail and examination of the consequences, really going into what you've all debated and understanding it in a full way. And I think, therefore, taking it to committee and having the opportunity in space and time with officer support to examine it in that detail is worthy. I would just say, look at the town centre. This last weekend, we had 25,000 people visit the Transport Festival. We had over 15,000 people at the Let It Glow Festival. The events and the work our officer team are doing is amazing. And we will be submitting them for an award because they deserve to receive accreditation for the hard work they're doing to deliver an amazing events programme that is putting footfall into our town centre, and our local businesses are benefiting from that and recognising the benefit of that. So when we discuss a policy like this and how it would affect our town centre, the toolbox point I think is the most important. What does it give us? What does it add to what we've got that might make a difference? We aren't going to find that out on the floor of full council tonight. I think it's right to take it away and actually do a really good, detailed piece of work at committee where it can support Cabinet in coming to a conclusion on what all of these key points, what you've all raised, is perfectly relevant. So let's do it in some detail and make some really good work on this and see what it's all about.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hibberton, do you want to second the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would like to speak. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Not long time ago, our MP, Luke Murphy, have hosted a business forum at the top of his town, and I attended along with the leader of the council, Councillor Paul Harvey, as well as some of the officers. And we did hear the concerns of the businesses in the town, and many of them have talked about the lack of the activity and attraction within that, and that comes with a variety of businesses at top of town. leases and issues around available units as well was another challenge that was raised. And clearly one way to help with that, or contribute at least to this, is by adopting this motion, by adopting the framework that the government have provided for us to use. That doesn't mean we would not use it, would not use it unreasonably. As my colleague said earlier, it's very useful tools to have, a mechanism for us to have in place for when we need it. If units has been left for a long time, or intentionally for a long time without being rented out. So I think it's important for us to adopt this motion today and making use of the mechanism introduced by the government. And we shouldn't underestimate, I know some of the council mentioned only few units are empty. We shouldn't underestimate the importance of this scheme, especially in relation to just having one unit at a time make a visible difference, and that will make a big difference. It's a small town, so every one unit does make a big count when it comes to the visibility. I strongly encourage everyone in this council to make most of the opportunity, adopt the framework, and just have it for when we need it, and also look into practicality. In relation to the capacity of the council, the government does offer funds for both to help establish registry if needed, but also some fund where possible to help with refurbishing units if they are not in a good condition to be rented out. So there's resources that comes with it that we can tap on when we need it. So I encourage everyone to vote in support of the motion this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor West, do you like to sum up?
Yep. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your thoughts on this. As I said at the start, I genuinely was interested to hear what people thought about it. As you rightly pointed out, it's come at quite an early stage. The government are only just now rolling this out to the first few councils over the last few months. I think, for me, and what was raised quite eloquently by Paul Basham and by other councillors, is that we can have this as a real tool in our arsenal, a power that we can actually use, but also it becomes a deterrent. So right now we might not have major problems with vacancies, but we don't know what the landscape is going to look like over time. And we want to make sure that landlords know that their responsibility is to keep their, if they've got business retail units at the top of town, then their responsibility is to make sure those leases are taken up. And if there's people who could take them up, we need to make sure they're given to them and they're not just left empty. So I want that power for us. I want to know that when it comes to it, when push comes to shove, we have that ability. I know that we want that because in Winklebury, the Three Barrels pub years ago should have been dealt with. It shouldn't have just been left and left and left and left and had the landlord get away with that dereliction of duty as a landlord. Had this power been in our arsenal at that time, after the first 12 months, we could have done something about that. Now it's too late. Now it's dangerous. Now there's people going in, they're getting hurt, people breaking in. It's an eyesore. It's a problem with a regeneration project. I don't want to see that happen in any other part of the town. I don't want to see it happen in Winklebury again. So I think we really do need those powers as council. On the point of going through some of this in real detail, as I say, early stage, I'm really up for being part of those conversations, helping with the scrutiny of this. I think it's important to have in our arsenal, despite where the landscape of the town might be, and I think we've got the incentives right now. We're getting to the place where the administration has really incentivised businesses, made sure the top of towns begin to thrive, and now it's a case of, in an ideal world, if we've got those incentives, what's the disincentive to do the wrong thing? And let's pick that up, let's take that power so that we can make sure that we're never in a position where we need to use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, we're going to move to an electronic vote on this. Okay? We're going to do an electronic vote anyway.
If it's going to be an electronic vote, can it please be a recorded vote, Mr. Mayor?
Of course. Members, that motion's carried. We're going to move on to the second motion, and we're going to hear from Councillor Bowes to start with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Newman Court is a specialist unit providing care for older adults with a diagnosis of dementia, Alzheimer's or cognitive impairment, providing mental stimulation through activities and socialisation. It is also invaluable in providing much-needed respite for carers. Over the years, an ageing population has meant there are almost insurmountable pressures on adult social care. Combined with years of austerity and cuts, havens like Newman Court are more valuable and necessary than ever. Yet the County Council would have us believe the need is falling, and it's somehow okay to end funding as they attempt to fill the gap in their finances. They claim ending the funding for Newman Court, together with a similar facility, Chesil Lodge in Winchester, will eventually contribute around £250,000, a drop in their almost £98 million deficit ocean. Closing this facility will not save them from possible bankruptcy. It is a pointless, short-term non-solution that will cost a vast amount more than any perceived saving. Thank you.
There was some more, wasn't there? Okay. Councillor McCormick, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now, Mr. Mayor, if I may. It's a real bombshell, the county consulting on the closure of the services at Newman Court. Because those of us that have been familiar with Newman Court know how popular it is, know how well used it is, and it is an absolute vital lifeline to those that use it, the elderly, dementia sufferers, and their families, their long-term carers. It gives vital respite. Demand for these services is rising, yet the county is looking to make a £250,000 projected saving by closing this and Chesil Lodge. And Councillor Bowes and myself and other councillors present in this chamber did meet with members of the public in a public meeting last month. We have cross-party support to save this vital facility at Newman Court. I really do think the county, this is a very cruel cut. I really can't see how it's going to materially affect their financial position, but it will have a massive, devastating effect on all of those who use it and their families. And if they were to cut this now, and if it were to close down, then it would be a massive effort for the successor council to the county to reinstate this service. It would be much easier for this service to continue until such time as we have the reorganisation. So I would urge all people, all of us here in the council chamber tonight, to support this motion because it is an absolute vital lifeline to our residents, and the alternatives that are being promoted as part of this consultation involve journeys of many miles to already overloaded facilities. And I think it's about time we drew a line in the sand with the county, because they have cut so many of our services over the years, and say enough is enough. We want to keep Newman Court. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gavin James.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I should say I'm a county councillor. It's on my register of members' interest or whatever, so I don't think I have to declare an interest as such. But I totally agree with what Councillor Cormack has said. Short-termism in the extreme. Certainly the successful authorities may want to look at early intervention as a way of actually reducing overall cost of social care. This is a bit of early intervention. When you meet the families there, these are people who are being cared for by relatives. And those relatives, usually a partner, are themselves of a certain age. And it's the fact that they can take them to this venue and get the support of other carers and have some respite from that care that they're able to continue to do that. Without this facility, I suspect many of these people will need a lot more intensive care from social services and cost more in the future. To date so far, I've been disappointed with the county reaction. I've emailed the county. Bizarrely, they had to send me a letter back because emails, they couldn't do it. And they sent me a letter back when I questioned the decision process. Bear in mind that if people want to make representations, these people might have to go to Winchester because that's where decisions are made. And given the fact they're carers, It's going to take a bit more organising than it just appearing at some point on a website. And I've been advised it will take place in the summer. I mean, I was hoping for a slightly more specific date than that. I have invited Nick Adams-King, leader of Hampshire County Council, to visit Newman Court with me. We're waiting to finalise a date. As of last night, I didn't have one, but that may have changed now. I look forward to visiting the site with him so we can see the great work that goes on there. It is something that I think, if they are going to go to a decision, and of course after the consultation's closed and they've reviewed the answers and if they visit the place, hopefully common sense will prevail. But I am going to try and get them to make that decision here in Basingstoke. I'm going to ask them to have their cabinet meet here, so local residents can attend and can have their say, because hiding away in Winchester, where these people are not able to use public transport, they are all needing care, they've got to bring their relatives with them, it's going to be very difficult to organise, and I think sometimes that those people are silenced by not being able to take their full role in a democratic society. So that'll be my next request if they get that far. So I will be supporting the motion.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bound.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't often speak in these forums. In fact, I don't think yes, I have spoken once before during the time that I've been a councillor. But I felt moved by this particular motion, because I think that what the county are trying to do is an absolute travesty. We need these facilities. Councillor James mentioned people of a certain age. I'm one of those people of that age, I think, that perhaps Councillor James is talking about. And I have got many relatives and friends who have got dementia, got Alzheimer's. And this sort of facility is the sort of facility that I'm not sure that they rely on, because I'm not sure that they're totally aware of the facility that they're going to. But it certainly takes care of them when they are there, and it certainly allows respite care for the carers, because the carers are the people, I think, who really, really do suffer. My brother-in-law, not in this county, he's now in a home. My sister got to a point where she couldn't look after him. All my mother's siblings, and there were 8 of them, ended up with dementia, all in care. If we close these facilities, I really don't know what's going to happen, because social care can't look after them at home. So, yes, I'm very supportive of this motion, and I will be voting for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Minus-Bound.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. The closure of Newman Court, which is being consulted on right now, would remove a crucial support system for some of our most vulnerable residents, those living with dementia and cognitive impairment, and for the carers who rely on respite to keep going, frankly. Now, we should recognise that Hampshire County Council is under extraordinary financial pressure. These decisions are not made lightly. No county councillor or councillor in this whole country decided to stand to be a councillor, to reduce services and to make cuts. Anybody who infers that is simply wrong. The pressures they are under, we should not pretend are anything other than that, but huge pressures. The reality is that neither children's services nor adult social care have had their national funding issues fixed. That doesn't matter whether they're a county council, a unitary council, a London borough. Those issues are for us, I would hope, sometime in the very near future. And we should think about that very carefully. But that does not mean we should quietly accept this outcome that is being suggested. We have a duty to stand with our residents and say, this service really matters. It also demonstrates the importance of devolution, and it's one of the reasons why in the consultation for devolution, as far as what powers I think our mayor should have, this is a clear demonstration that the cost is with the county council, but the impact is going to be in parklands, It's going to be the NHS that bears the impact of this when Parklands cannot accept any more acute patients. If we allow facilities like Newman Court to close, the cost will be socially as well as financially. Those needs and demands will only grow. More carers will be pushed to breaking point and more families will be left with nowhere to turn. That is an unimaginable thought to consider. This is about responsible compassion, and I support the motion on this basis. But I request we should never, particularly at this point in time, decide to bash the county council or to bash county councillors when they are left in the financial position that they are currently in. And that is not only by the current government but previous governments. And we should be cautious when we will be facing considerations of this scale when it comes to an ambition about designing and transforming services in the future. But there are some things that cannot be transformed locally when it comes to the requirements for funding. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much. Councillor Ibrahim.
I'll withdraw my request. It's been covered by everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Katecha.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. How dare do the county council do this? £250,000 they're going to save. Do they realise they're going to get old one day and they'll need these services? There's plenty of things you can cut to get those savings. For example, the chief executive, he's almost put them on their knees and bankrupt the county council. What about the leaders and those people involved in that? I'm not blaming the councillors themselves, but it's people above them who've put the county council in this situation. I'm going to support this motion because I've had some chats with some of the people who work there in privacy, so I won't mention their names, but they've been threatened by county councillors. If you protest against this or even mention this, you'll lose your job. They're doing an amazing job. One day I might need their support in so many years' times. So will all of us, so will they. So it's high time they realise that we cannot close this place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You don't escape, I don't think, the emotion of this. Not certainly when you sit in the public meeting and you listen to the human stories of the residents who use this service. Yeah, the respite's critical because that's probably the only place they get it. And that's absolutely a point when they risk falling over because of it. And the cost of that falling over, the cost of them not being able to look after their loved ones means care in home that will cost vastly more than the saving the county council thinks it's going to make. And that's a point. It's going to wind up in a position where it will actually force the county to spend far more on housing these residents in homes and care because the people looking after them are simply pushed to breaking point. And that's the difference the daycare centre makes to them in their lives. It gives them that respite and that opportunity to have a breathing space. I don't think anybody wants to get into a bashing county in that way, but it comes to the responsibility of those making the decisions. They chose to freeze their council tax over all the years they did. They chose to take £150 million out of their council tax base forever and a day. That's a consequence of a political decision made at county. They chose to ask the government for a 15% exceptional funding that the government turned down. They then decided not to put their council tax up or seek a referendum. But the result is they are facing a budget gap of £216 million this year. And let's not forget that's £40 million more than they thought it was going to be. They're looking at £260 million next year. And that's likely to go up beyond that figure. The reality is that the county council is in dire financial straits. And it is government's fault as much as it is the county council's fault because governments successively have not tackled the social care issue. It is the iceberg that is sat there that's going to sink local government all over the country unless government get on with the job of solving the problem, What do you do with an ageing population in our country who deserve respect and dignity and deserve support? And this is a question that has been punted and pushed down the road and forgotten about, government after government. Hence the problem that the county councils and unitary authorities are in. So in fact, Simon's quite right that whatever comes in the future is going to involve anybody in this chamber sitting in that new authority, if they are successful to be elected, making very difficult choices. Because the reality is, unless that issue is solved, you simply push the can down the road. That's why the county option doesn't work. Because county aren't talking about transforming services. They're not talking about working with the public and private sector together, and public health in particular, in a way by you can transform and you can examine prevention and working together in a way that might provide a better service. So there's a huge context to all of this. But my heart goes out to those people who are in this position where this daycare centre is closing. It's not going to be the only thing we face. I think over the next few months and going into maybe the next couple of years, we're going to see a huge number of issues come our way from the county simply because they can't balance their books. We can't pick those responsibilities up, we just can't. But it does mean our residents are going to be hit time and time again. The other one that's obviously all in our faces at the moment, and all in our inboxes, is the CAB and what they're going through. Just those two examples give you an indication of how difficult things are for the county. It's not all their own fault, but they have to accept responsibility for some of the decisions they have made that are wrong, and they have to accept responsibility for not transforming their services when they've had opportunity to do so. So actually, it's a bit of blame all round to be in the position we are in. But the only thing that matters to these people, to our residents, is that this service stays open. And that's where the lobbying of the county is going to come in. So I think, and I'm looking around the chamber, there's pretty much unanimity here, I hope. And so I'm saying to the county, listen to the voices of the residents of Basingstoke and Dean through their elected representatives of all groups and parties. Do not close Newman Court.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A lot of people here have noted and will continue to note the nonsensical non-savings that this cut will bring and the devastating impact that it will have on service users. So I don't want to repeat that, but I do want to make a specific point about the additional layers of suffering this will bring to certain communities. Women are more likely to suffer from dementia. Women are hugely more likely to be unpaid carers for their loved ones. The health of people of colour is more likely to be impacted by the demands of unpaid care. And the poorest people in our communities, those with the least, will struggle the most to access whatever alternatives County Council plasters over this. I believe that one of the reasons for the can kicking that Councillor Harvey was talking about, the reasons that social care is so undervalued, disrespected and generally unpaid, is that traditionally, historically, it has been women's work. Our failing economic model is largely based on the ignorant and outdated assumptions of famous economists who never considered the fact that care props up the entire economy. And to this day, we don't include care in our economic calculations because those men weren't the ones who spent the days and nights changing nappies and cooking dinner and giving medication and stopping their elderly grandparents doing themselves a mischief, but their wives and their mothers did all of that. And to this day, we expect mostly women to pick up the slack at their own expense and at that of the economy. Every cut like this is ruinous and it is short-sighted, but make no mistake, it also has a vastly disproportionate impact on women, minoritised communities and the very, very poorest among us. I support this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much. Councillor Bowes, would you like to sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to repeat a few points here, but it's in summary. Given that HCC will cease to exist in 3 years' time, it seems particularly wrong that they are closing vital services in our borough as a sticking plaster exercise in false economy. Closing Newman Court will potentially cost so much more to their successors than it will save them, as, intended or otherwise, they salt the earth in their wake. One carer said the alternatives he was offered for his wife would involve 2 hours of travel for him every day. This considerably impacts the hours of respite adult day services provides. There is no point providing a respite for carers if much of it is spent travelling. Others have been signposted to charitable organisations providing similar care, but when they contacted those organisations, they were told there is already a waiting list. They are full. I fail to see how there can be any accuracy in the suggestion that the need for this service is falling if other similar facilities have a waiting list. I note, however, that Newman Court is via referral only. From their page on HCC's own website, admission is via a social worker or care manager who will initially assess your needs. Potential service users are then invited to visit the centre for part of the day where our own assessment is carried out. And I can't help but wonder if that last sentence is partially responsible for the apparent drop in demand. In addition, we were told at a recent meeting with some of those who use the day services that it can take over a year to get through with the referral and acceptance to Newman Court. It's almost as though the drop in demand has been artificially manufactured. At the very least, it will have caused some applicants to just give up. One gentleman at that same meeting told us, "We are old, we don't matter." I consider it a tragedy that he has been made to feel that way. Please join me in showing him that he and his fellow service users and their carers matter to us and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to a recorded electronic vote. Councillor Court, your lights on.
Yeah.
Do you want to vote, Councillor Court?
I already have, Mr. Mayor.
That motion is carried. We're going to move to the third motion of the evening from Councillor Tuck.
Mr Mayor, fellow councillors, within Basingstoke and Dean Borough, we are lucky to enjoy internationally recognised rare natural chalk streams, including the source springs and headwaters of the River Loddon and the River Test. We also have the Enbourne and Itchin and Gailey amongst others. One thing they all have in common is they are exceptionally vulnerable to over-abstraction and habitat degradation, given numerous pressures from pollution and accelerating urbanisation. With only 14% of UK rivers in good ecological health and none in good chemical health, it is clear that our environmental laws and regulations need urgent revision. Water quality in chalk streams across the UK continues to worsen, with pollution from numerous sources significantly disrupting the unique and fragile ecology of these rivers. Salmon, genetically distinct to southern chalk streams, are at a tipping point of extinction. However, there is hope in an emerging global movement recognising the rights of nature, in particular the rights of rivers. Rights of nature is an innovative way to alter our relationship with nature, from one of dominance to one of interdependency, requiring a respectful, holistic and empathic approach. The idea of extending legal personhood rights to non-human entities is not a new concept, with these rights already extended to, for example, limited companies. This motion is not just a statement of intent. It outlines actionable steps. It calls for a collaboration with local communities and stakeholders to develop a declaration on the rights of the river by spring 26. It urges the Cabinet to work with partners like the Environment Agency to enforce existing protections and advocate for stronger measures. Additionally, it ensures that, within the Council's remit, strategic planning and individual development decisions prioritise the health of our chalk streams, safeguarding them from the pressures of urbanisation and pollution. These measures reflect an holistic approach that balances environmental protection with community engagement and sustainable growth. We have received amazing support for the Rights of Rivers motion from the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust, who organised the drop-in to draft the motion. Thank you very much, appreciated. And letters strongly supporting the Rights of the River motion from the Wessex Rivers Trust, the South East Rivers Trust, Greener Basingstoke and Natural Basingstoke, which represent a number of community groups, and most importantly, from our residents. I ask you to consider adding your support and to vote in favour of this motion to make a lasting difference to Basingstoke and Deane. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Conquest, do you want to speak now or reserve your right?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll speak now. First, let me say what an honour it is to represent and speak for the people of my ward, Tadley North, Kingsclere and Borkhurst. I've seen firsthand the transformative impact this council can have on people's lives, their quality of life and the environment they live in. The ward has a mix of urban and rural areas and all the issues you would expect. I live in Kingsclere, where I'm also a parish councillor, so most of the issues and casework from the village tend to come my way. People often think of our villages as idyllic country communities. While that is partly true, there are very real problems too. There are areas of real deprivation, not helped by higher rural costs. The Rural Services Network reports that the cost of living is higher and wages lower than in urban areas, and other factors such as poor transportation links, slower broadband, and reduced employment opportunities make life harder for many residents. Despite this, there is a great community spirit, and we have beautiful natural features being on the edge of the AONB, such as Watership Down with its wonderful views, although I've never actually seen any rabbits up there. Not far from Watership Down, a chalk stream rises from the downs, winds its way through the village, and eventually flows into the Enbourne. Parents bring their children to feed the ducks there. The stream springs from the same hill that supplies all our water. We are completely dependent for our drinking water upon a borehole into the aquifer. A borehole that the Environment Agency have confirmed is already having a detrimental effect on the chalk stream, while developers are hoping to build many more houses that could increase the population by perhaps 20%. Our chalk stream is suffering from many of the same issues affecting its larger cousins, such as the Test and the Loddon. This motion aims to protect our rivers from further harm. Over-abstraction from increased development and excessive water use is reducing water levels. Pollution is killing our rivers. Endangered habitats are being lost. These issues alone should be enough to trigger our outrage and spur us into action. But the situation is so much worse than that. Our chalk streams are an endangered species. There are only 246 in the world, and many of them are in this small corner of the planet that we as a council have some influence over. This motion demonstrates that this council takes its responsibility seriously. We might not have direct control over the rivers and streams, but we are an important stakeholder, and residents look to us for leadership, to champion their views, and to do what's right. It might seem idealistic to give a river rights or to call it alive, but consider the alternative. It's all too easy to picture a dead river, no fish, birds, or other wildlife, no plants to filter and clean it, no people swimming or boating on it. If we can call a river dead, then we can call it alive too. And if it is alive, then surely it has rights. Basingstoke and Deane has a proud history of leading innovative policies. Our updated local plan will include new housing standards that lead the country. Let us do the same for our rivers. Our residents have made it very clear that they really care about the state of our rivers. So should we. Back this motion to make this council a leader in protecting our rivers. Back this motion to make it clear that we will hold our partners and the other stakeholders to account, that we expect them to care for our rivers as much as we do. Back this motion to put Basingstoke and Deane and our successor at the forefront of combined planning and environmental policy. Mr. Mayor, I am delighted to second this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a great maiden speech. Councillor Tomlin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I'd like to thank Councillors Tuck and Conquest for bringing this motion to the House. It raises very important issues for us all to consider. For those members who might not be aware, Basingstoke and Deane is located within a county that has more river and wetland sites of national importance for wildlife than any other county in England. Water quality and potable water supply is something that I feel strongly about in the context of the climate and ecological emergency that this country faces. We know water quality is a concern for residents and a number of councillors across the borough. So I've got a few facts and figures. For the year 24-25, the Thames Sewage Processing Facility in Chinham, that handles by far the most of the borough's sewage, actually discharged sewage into the river on average 2.5 days every day for the year. That's about 11% of the year. This data is from their own website, where even this year, in March, over a 3-day period, I randomly visited the website to check, and in that time, a total of 13 hours of discharge was reported, despite it being dry and sunny. Sherford-on-Loddon Works, further up the river, saw 28 outflow events from April 2024 until January this year alone. And currently its residents suffer with tankers regularly taking overspill from the local sewers. The other day, visiting a small watercourse in a Basingstoke suburb, I observed sewage outflow pipes feeding their local brook. We have open sewers in this day and age. So is it no small wonder that biodiversity is 70% depleted across the UK? And we learnt earlier this motion refers to the fact that in the UK there are only 14% of rivers in good ecological health and none in good chemical health. So that's a sobering thought. So as members will know, the water industry is regulated by several independent bodies, each with a specific area of responsibility and expertise, but working in partnership. We need to hold them and the Environment Agency to task. I want to assure members of the continued commitment of this council to work in partnership with those statutory bodies and voluntary groups to protect, manage and improve the water quality of the borough's water. To date, this administration has contributed financially to projects by the South East Rivers Trust on the River Loddon relating to water quality, biodiversity and river restoration. This includes citizen science monitoring at Crabtree Plantation, Barton's Mill, Petty's Brook and Longbridge Mill, the results of which can be seen on the Loddon Catchment Partnership website. This has been driven by Councillor Tuck, to whom I would like to offer my sincere thanks for her passionate caring for our rivers. Despite the shocking reports yesterday, you may have read that the government has vetoed the rivers protection within the forthcoming planning bill. We will have to up our game somewhat. We need even more weapons as a result. So I therefore commend this motion to members. Thank you.
Members, I have 6 more speakers, so if you don't have to take 5 minutes, that would be appreciated. I've got Councillor Minus-Bow next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and keep it brief. I would like to thank Councillor Tuck and Councillor Conquest for bringing this motion. I rise to support it. As has been said, they are not local assets, they are national, if not global assets, our chalk streams. But I think we need to be clear what we're up against. I'm not sure members will be aware, and Councillor Tomlin has touched on it, but yesterday the Planning and Infrastructure Bill was at its committee stages. Both Labour and Liberal Democrat MPs voted to take protections out for chalk streams and for blanket bogs. There is where my concern lies. because I absolutely support this motion. We have had many conversations in this chamber and many committees and committee rooms about the importance of water quality, water availability, ecosystem health, over abstraction, but fundamentally, when we see some national parties voting to strip away these protections in national legislation, it sends completely the wrong message. The message that nature can be an afterthought in the face of planning pressures. We know how our ecosystem has been stressed beyond compare as far as those planning pressures already. We need no more. We need more protections. Economic growth and environmental protection must go hand in hand. We need to send a national message, but I repeat, I am, however, extremely concerned how we protect them with the Planning and Infrastructure Bill on its way, coming soon, and frankly, looking like it doesn't give a damn.
Thank you very much. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So spreading the blame around a little bit here, governments of all complexions need to take responsibility for the state of our rivers. It hasn't just happened in the last 9 months. If you think about the tons of sewage over the last few years that have been consistently dumped in our rivers, it comes from a history of neglect of our rivers. And the government with the Planning and Infrastructure Bill, I've got to be honest, has got this wrong. They need to listen. Because infrastructure isn't just GPs and schools, as critical as they are and as neglected as they are. It also is our waterways and our rivers and our environment. It is equally as important infrastructure. So yes, Simon, I agree with you. You're right, actually. The government do need to listen. But I'll tell you what, you don't fix it after 14 years of being in power and creating the water companies through privatisation, which are part of this problem. Thames Water and Southern Water are part of this problem by their very structure. The fact that they were paying dividends out to their shareholders and their executives while challenging Ofwat, who were challenging them on the condition of our rivers, and were quite happy to make the bill payers pay for the privilege of legally challenging Ofwat. That's disgusting that bill payers were being charged for the privilege of that company taking Ofwat to court over the bills and the investments profile that they were not delivering on. So there's lots of issues wrapped up with this. 938 hours of sewage being dumped into the Loddon last year. That's going to have huge impacts that we need to understand. We need government, no matter who they are, to clean up our rivers and stop the dumping. We need government, no matter who they are, to clean up the water companies and to stop them doing what they're doing. We need the infrastructure because we can't grow as we're being asked to grow without the infrastructure with it to sustain that growth. The two things are utterly contradictory, which is why I'm really pleased that the District Council's network is lobbying the government cross-party on the changes to the infrastructure bill that local government wants to see. So local government is having a voice, a really important voice. Well, why does it matter to us? Well, it matters because some of the chalk streams in our borough are internationally recognised, and they are the source of those rivers. It's not as if we're downriver in this situation. They are the source of those rivers. That's why this is so critical to us. That's also why the NPPF is wrong, why planning policy is wrong, why the lack of powers in this place is wrong. If we truly believe in localism, then we need the powers in this place to be able to hold those companies to account for our residents, to get the infrastructure we need to sustain our communities today, let alone in the future, and we need to have the powers to protect our environment because of the area ecological crisis and climate crisis that we've all declared. You either take it seriously or you don't. And previous governments didn't put the amendments through. They were quite happy to vote them down. And now this government has done the same last night. So actually, it's a plague in all your houses. We have all got responsibility to try to put this right. And somewhere, someone needs to step up. And if they don't, we need to do the best we can with what we've got. And it ain't good enough, and it isn't enough. But we're trying to do, with this motion, I think, the right thing and to take that step forward. So please support the motion. I think we need to try and do what we've got while we wait for legislation that's actually got some teeth in it.
Thank you very much. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to remind everybody, and I know that Councillor Ashfield knows this, she's going to be up at the North Wessex Downs National Landscape. I represented this council on that authority for about 5 years. A third of this borough lies within that area. Now, specifically about chalk streams, they were looking at the Test, the Itchen, and a little bit sideways the Loddon, because it's just outside the national landscape. But I commend the council to bring in the North Wessex Downs organisation, because they conducted several trials with farmers, with landowners, and with ecologists about recovering the chalk streams within the North Wessex Downs area. They've got documentation on it, they've got videos of it, all during my time with the Landscape Authority. It would actually, I hope, contribute to all the other supporters that have come along tonight. I think it's been on a topic that I've been involved in. Well, I've been a councillor more than 15 years now, but that topic has been there all the time. I welcome this motion. I'll support it in any way I can, but certainly you can access existing real-time information about how they cleaned up a lot of the chalk stream within the national landscape. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Slimming.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I deviate from what I was going to say to start with, to say that I wasn't prepared for an accusation that Liberal Democrats were against improving chalk streams. I know that at a conference in September we passed a motion very much supporting what is being said today. So and certainly Liberal Democrats have been at the forefront of fighting about sewage in rivers. However, I am going to talk to you a slightly different angle, because I'm sure that this morning you all got up and you probably flushed your loo. You probably boiled the kettle. You may have even put the dishwasher on or the washing machine. You may have actually watered the plants in your garden, and you may have done other things with water, because you would have expected that when you turn the taps on, that water appears. And what you are likely to be using is clean drinking water for all those things. At the moment, we all know that the weather is a bit unchangeable. We have got a huge amount of sun, not so much today, but most days we have very sunny and hot weather. And this is going to be on record as being the hottest and the driest spring for records since records began. On average, each person in the UK uses between 140 and 160 litres of water a day. This is a 2-litre bottle. So you use 80 of these a day, and that is just you and not the rest of your family. According to the Environment Agency figures, by 2015, England will need to find an additional 5 billion litres of water a day to meet demand for public water supply. This is more than a third of the 14 billion litres of water currently put into the public water supply. And what is generally unknown to many people, that especially in the south of England, we have less water per head than in the Sahara Desert. Demand grows when the weather is hot, so this spring is going to be particularly an issue. And I think you may have already seen on the news that people are starting to talk about a potential drought. Obviously, when the drought is coming, water companies have drought plans, which they have to produce and they have to discuss with the Environment Agency. As you probably know, all the water that you drink comes from the river or the aquifer, which is also forming the water in the river. Initially, it comes out of the sky, but unfortunately, it doesn't always go where it's supposed to be. So, and the aquifers aren't replenished until we get enough water. And so that there is a likelihood that if the weather continues, we will be in a drought position. Many of you think that may not have happened for a number of years, but believe it or not, the last drought orders were in 1922 and were only released in 1923. 2023. I've got the wrong century here. However, some of you may know that I used to work for the Environment Agency. I was in the communications. And one of my tasks was not only to talk about flooding and flood defences, but also to work with the water company on communications when we were in drought. This meant that we had water plans that we took off the shelf when the risks were high, and every month or every 2 weeks at some point, there was data being produced about the state of all our rivers, and abstractions were considered, and obviously there had to be a balancing act.
You've got 1 minute.
The need of wildlife and the need of the people, because we are human beings and we do need to have water to drink, because without it we can't survive. So obviously we need to protect our rivers because they provide us with water. We need also to make sure that the rivers are well looked after and are not polluted, and that is why it's important that we do that work too. We also need to remember that the Environment Agency do not cause the pollution, but they will be part of the answer. And we do need to make sure that we involve all the stakeholders, many of whom have already been listed here in that event. And when we come to Cabinet, I hope we'll be able to speak and accept more stakeholders that come along to be invited. So I do support the motion, and I, for the sake of us all having water to drink, so that we don't have to have no water as 1976 in Tadley, that when we turn the taps on, nothing comes out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're down to a couple of minutes each then. Councillor West, please.
I shall keep it brief. I really agree with the spirit of this motion. I think it's really important that we protect our rivers locally, and I know that the government also know that's important. That's why they've put forward things like the Water Special Measures Bill in order to make sure we start getting our waterways cleaned up. Where I struggle to be able to support the motion today, and hopefully you'll be able to, in summarising, answer some of this, is my concerns around the fact that this, all of these areas that talk about planning in the local plan. Firstly, I think I worry that it could be unenforceable because there's quite a lot of legal complication around planning. I don't think that often you aren't allowed to just add things to the borough council and then turn things away at development stage, because we'll then get overturned on appeal, like we already face quite a lot in this borough. So I worry about that, and I do welcome the addition of within its remit to that part of it, because I think its remit, you'll find, is quite narrow. And obviously we can have the discussion about getting more powers, but I just don't know if this is the right way to protect our rivers, particularly the idea that rivers having rights is quite poetic. I'm just not sure it's actually enforceable or usable, and would love to see and hear more concrete things that we could be achieving on this council, or that be calling for to be implemented in order to do this. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Hart, you've only got 2 minutes.
That's all right, Mr. Mayor. I will be exceptionally brief. I simply wanted to reaffirm that I've spoken to a number of green and wildlife, nature ecological groups and residents in my area concerned about this, and this has nothing but their strong and unanimous support. Some of them are with us here this evening. Thank you. And I'm fully supportive of this motion as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for being so quick. Councillor Tuck, we'd like to sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow councillors. Thank you for your incredibly constructive comments and contributions. Regarding the planning issue, we've worked basically within the bounds of our legal limits, so I'm confident that what we have there is something that we can legally work with. In summing up, I'd like to quote from letters of support from our catchment managers, the experts. From the Loddon Catchment Partnership, Josh Bowes says, "The South East Rivers Trust strongly supports the Rights of Rivers framework. The River Loddon within Basingstoke and Dean is exceptionally vulnerable to over-abstraction and habitat degradation. The Rights of Rivers framework offers a hopeful solution. And Alex Deacon of the Wessex Rivers Trust, co-host of the Test and Itchen Catchment Partnership, says, Hampshire's River Test is one of the most iconic chalk streams in the world, but like so many of our rivers, over-abstraction, pollution and habitat degradation are having a negative effect on this globally rare ecosystem. The diminutive headwaters of the Test are even more susceptible to these pressures, all of which are becoming increasingly acute as our climate becomes increasingly extreme. Yet there is hope. Members of the Test and Itchen Catchment Partnership are tackling these pressures head-on and are winning at a local level. But we desperately need the support of our local authorities and wider stakeholders to protect and enhance the Test on a catchment scale. The rights of our rivers will be a big step in the right direction towards making change happen on a meaningful scale. I hope you feel able to support. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Tuck. Once again, we go for a recorded electronic vote. Has everybody voted? That's it, isn't it? 42.
Yeah, motion's carried.
That motion's carried, members. We'll move on now to questions from members of the council. I'll notice we have 5. Questioners, do feel free to read them if you have to. Question number 1 from Councillor Dillo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Homeowners in Buckskin and Southam are frightened and angry. At a recent public engagement events hosted by S&G, many left feeling uncertain and distressed by the looming threat of compulsory purchase orders tied to the proposed regeneration plans. These are not just houses, they are people's homes, built over lifetimes, rich with memories and community ties. They're forever homes. Now homeowners are left in limbo. They don't know if or when they might be impacted. Should they invest in their homes? Should they go ahead with that new kitchen, redecorate the lounge or carry out repairs? Or will it all be for nothing if a CPO forces them out? This lack of clarity is deeply unfair, in my opinion. Will the administration today give a clear commitment that no homeowner will be forced out of their home against their will? Anything less would be a betrayal of the trust that local people have placed in this council. Thank you.
Councillor Harvey, would you like to respond?
I would like to respond, Mr. Mayor. Sean, you are one of the ward councillors, and you know the answer to this question. You've had the answer from SNG, and you've also had it from me on more than one occasion. I couldn't have been clearer about this, so you asking this question feels more about politics than helping residents, and is certainly amplifying the uncertainty and the fear they're feeling. Marcus came here this evening as a resident with concerns and questions. He's not the only resident. You've been briefed by SNG. You have the facts. You also know that they propose to reset the conversation. SNG respect and have heard the views of residents. So the choice is really either to work with SNG to represent your residents or to continue to put out leaflets and ask questions like this, where you already know the answer. The answer would be no different if you were sat here. Legally, we cannot rule out receiving a request to consider, but we have not received a request. S&G have made no such request, and in 23 years, I do not know of this council ever using these powers in this way. And any use must have a very strong case to show it's in the community's interest. Any suggestion other than that is deliberately misleading people and scaremongering. That is not being responsible. So here's a question to you. Are you going to get behind SNG's reset and summer of engagement? Will you promote that? Will you help shape that? Will you take that consultation positively into the community and help your residents who want to see investment in their community? Will you help residents co-design? Will you support them shaping the future? And will you take those messages with us, as we are, to SNG, to bring all the community together with SNG to move the project forward positively and constructively?
Thank you. Councillor Dillard, do you have a supplementary?
I have a quick one. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So will the council leader and, importantly, the portfolio holder for major projects and regeneration commit to attending future public engagement events like I have, held by SNG, so that they can witness firsthand the level of concern and uncertainty being expressed by both tenants and homeowners affected by the proposed regeneration in both Buckskin and South Ham? Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We've both been at events in Buckskin and events in South Ham. More than that, I've sat in the living rooms of residents and spoken directly to them about the concerns they have, about the fact of leaflets that have been distributed that have scared them terribly. That's a mistake, and that should also be an issue we consider. How communication to residents is made and done is incredibly important. We should not spread fear. We should not engage in that kind of politics. So let's take a step back. Let's listen to the residents who have genuine concerns about the future of their community. And let's also forget that Buckskin and South Ham is not one community. There are many communities in Buckskin and South Ham, different communities, and they each need to be heard. And they each have different needs and different parts to play in this process. Let's help bind them together with SNG in a way that brings ideas and thoughts about how that community can change and grow in the future around the community facilities, the shops, the schools, the housing that we need and the housing that needs to be protected and sustained. There's a whole range of things that we need to talk about with SNG, with residents engaged,
Your time's up,
so they
Councillor
understand the
Harvey.
process. But the point is that we take residents with us. So yes, I'm very happy to continue in those public meetings.
Thank you. The second question is from Councillor Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just going to get straight to the point. Some of may think it's a crazy idea, while others may find it a brilliant opportunity. My question is, could the Cabinet portfolio holder share their thoughts on the possibility of developing a maze in Basingstoke as a unique tourist attraction? Such an initiative could help make our town even more distinct and memorable, potentially boosting tourism and fostering local pride. I believe that a well-designed maze could not only enhance the visitors' experience, but also contribute to the local economy. With the idea of making Basingstoke a Basingstoke, how feasible would it be to explore the creation of such an attraction? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tom. I've got Councillor Gavin James to respond here.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm responding because I was around the last time this was put forward to the Leisure Park map in about 2011. So you're not the first councillor, unfortunately, to put this idea. You're not even the first councillor from Popley. It was one of your predecessors who did it. We very quickly established we'd need to take a very large piece of public open space. Not always a popular thing. We would then need to staff it when the venue is open, because clearly if someone had a medical emergency, someone's got to be there to help emergency services get through the maze, to find them and support them. Then we'd have to seal it at night to make sure at night no one else went in there and had the same issue. So it'd have lots of security. We'd also have to maintain a lot of hedges, and that would need to be carefully maintained throughout the year. It's a significant maintenance burden on our officers. That's what happened last time we looked into it. It turned out to be something of a labyrinth, and I'd hedge my bets that if we looked into it again, we will find that we've taken the wrong turn, and it results in a dead end. So I think rather than doing that and looking for the exit, we'll get lost now. Thank you.
Councillor Tom, have you got a supplementary? Okay. Thank you very much. The third question of the evening comes from Councillor Court.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Old Down Woodland Park is widely recognised as one of Basingstoke's most important natural spaces, including being one of the best sites in Hampshire for the small blue butterfly, and currently holds Site of Importance for Nature Conservation, which is SINCS status. There is, however, a current proposal to use Section 106 funds from neighbouring housing developments to install recreational infrastructure at Old Down Woodland Park, such as park benches, signage and play equipment. What assessment, if any, has been undertaken to evaluate the impact such installations would have on the park's biodiversity and its fundamentally wild character? And will the portfolio holder agree that the primary purpose of Old Down Woodland Park should be to protect nature and one of conservation, and it is vital that any use of Section 106 funds supports its protection, not its degradation, and that any future enhancements to the site should reflect that purpose?
Thank you very much. Councillor Tomlin, have you got an answer?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I thank Councillor Court for his question. Old Down is a multifunctional green space within the town and is an important resource both to wildlife and residents in the local area, having been laid out in the late 1990s as part of the adjacent Gabriel Park housing estate. It functions as an area for informal recreation and play elements that continue today, but the site is also very important for its value as a nature conservation resource, as reflected in the SINC designation you referred to. I can assure you that this will continue to be the case, and a key aim of the proposals funded by the Open Space 106 contributions is to ensure that the naturalistic character and the nature within Old Down are protected. The pressure on the site, though, has increased over the years, with more people from new and nearby residential developments at Kennel Farm, Hounsome Fields and Basingstoke Golf Course visiting Old Down. So a balance needs to be made between protecting and enhancing wildlife habitats and species within the site, and also ensuring that the site meets the needs of all local residents. And it's the intention that the project would achieve this. The journey of the project to date has included close involvement and liaison with a number of internal teams, including the biodiversity and ranger teams, in order to assess if there are any impacts of proposals on habitats and wildlife species. Local members and portfolio holders were engaged with the development of options for the initial consultation carried out last year. From the initial consultation with the community, there was clearly a split in the support, which indicated broad support for the options presented, but with nature conservation concerns. Several Cabinet members have since met with representatives from Natural Basingstoke, Greener Basingstoke and the local conservation groups as part of this ongoing consultation process. So the scheme is currently being developed in more detail, and we have committed to carrying out a further public consultation regarding the proposals later this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a supplementary, Councillor Court?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Supplementary, why has there been no meaningful progress in advancing the park's designation as a local nature reserve, and whether this designation is currently being prioritised? And will the portfolio holder commit to fully engaging with local stakeholders, including the Old Down Wildlife Group, whose members have expressed deep concerns that the park is at risk of being urbanised and losing its ecological value?
Thank you. Yes, well, firstly, your second part, we will commit to engage with all of the various bodies. That's an absolute certainty. So, because we want to get this right. The other issue is I think we've answered this in questions before. The the protection that you get from a LNR is not as well. It's equivalent to a SINC. They're both protected. They work the same. It's just a different method. So at this stage, it is something that the officers are not pushing forward because we feel it's protected enough at this present time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question 4, Councillor Dillo.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've been contacted by a resident of my ward who was unable to access the concessionary rate at the council-owned aquadrome despite presenting valid and officially recognised proof of disability in the form of a Hampshire yellow card and a gateway card for his son. He was told he had to register to access the concessionary rates. Can the Cabinet member explain why disabled residents who already hold recognised forms of identification issued by the local authority are still required to undergo a further registration process to access concessionary rates at council-run facilities? Will the council review this process with a view to removing unnecessary barriers for casual disabled users and ensuring the policy aligns with the council's stated commitment to accessibility and inclusion? Thank you.
That one's for you, Councillor Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and it's great to see you in the chair. The Aquadrome is currently managed on behalf of the Council and the Leisure Trust by Serco Leisure. Serco Leisure's policy requires a resident to provide valid recognised proof of disability, such as the Hampshire Yellow Card, in order to qualify for the concessionary rate. Once evidence has been provided, people are required to register onto the Serco system as a one-off, and then they are provided with the More membership card. The reason for this is to allow people to access to the facility. It's to allow people to access the facility turnstiles without them having to wait at reception at busy pinch point times. The centre staff also register users on the system to ensure staff are aware that during an emergency situation that there are residents using this facility that may require additional support in evacuating the building. It is a requirement to have user details should any incidents occur, and details need to be passed to the emergency services. There are also added benefits to having the card, such as early booking opportunities and access to the facilities. With the resident's permission, I am happy to ask Serco to support the resident to register onto the system, so he has access to the benefits provided through the More card, and ensure staff at the Aquadrome are equipped to provide the right support to keep the resident safe in the case of emergency. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Diller?
Just a small one. Following the reports from a resident in my ward that the Aquadrome may have been unsafe during the recent Easter school holidays due to overcrowding in the lagoon, with over 50 people waiting nearly half an hour to use the changing room facilities, will the administration investigate how this situation arose and whether ticketing levels can be better managed to ensure a safer and more enjoyable experience to users? Thank you.
Yes, I'd certainly happily investigate. Also, please come to me as soon as you can with these issues.
Thanks so much. Question 5, Councillor Diller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What assessment has the administration undertaken to fully understand the significant adverse impact that the proposed relocation of the golf centre's pitch and putt course to Downgrange Park would have on local residents and existing community groups, including dog walkers, the Basingstoke Athletics Club and the Basingstoke Disc Golf Club, who currently make regular use of this valued green space? Has there been any formal consultation with the current users of Downgrange Park regarding the potential impact of these proposals? What alternative sites have been explored and assessed for the golf centre's relocation, and what consideration has been given to the biodiversity, mature habitats and wildlife present at Downgrange Park in the decision-making process? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dillo, for your question. As you know, the decision taken by Cabinet in January identified land south of Downgrange House as the preferred site to take forward for the potential relocation of the pitch and putt driving range and adventure golf currently located at Basingstoke Golf Centre, should Great Wolf get planning permission. A review of council-owned land that would provide enough space to relocate the facilities currently on offer at the golf centre was carried out. Given the space required to accommodate the pitch and putt, and as a large part of the area already is home to the sports complex, Downgrange was identified as the most suitable site to take forward for further investigation. It was disappointing to see the language used in a petition claiming that the proposals would lead to the destruction of land at Downgrange, I can assure everyone in this chamber that this is just not true. As a Cabinet, we are absolutely focused on protecting and enhancing biodiversity in our wider environment. That is why it is one of our priorities in the Council Plan. As part of the commitment, we would protect established trees, plants and habitats and explore wider improvements to enhance the open space to deliver a 10% increase in biodiversity value of the land, which is our land. This would all be independently assessed as part of any future planning application. At a time when when other councils can't afford to invest or are forced to close sports facilities, we remain committed to exploring how we can enhance our facilities. We want to see the future sporting stars come from Basingstoke. The facilities at Downgrange offer the perfect environment to nurture young talent and provide a clear path from grass sports to professional competition. Subject to getting planning permission, the proposals being developed by Great Wolf would provide amazing new leisure facilities and attract thousands of visitors to the borough. Importantly, it would unlock vital investment, and we are actively exploring how this could be used to enhance the facilities at Downgrange.
Can you sum up, please, Councillor Morrow?
Doesn't seem right. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Just to say that the proposal, we want to get to the planning stage of the proposal where we actually understand what's there and not so much about the destruction and what's out there at the moment. It's a different picture.
Thank you. Is there a 1 minute supplementary and a 1 minute answer?
I'll talk quickly. The Council's website currently states that the proposed location would avoid the need to use any of the area currently used by other clubs at Downgrange Sports Complex and protects the natural landscape of this area at Downgrange. Now, in my view, this statement is inaccurate. I've spoken to users of Downgrange Park, adjacent to the Miller and Carter restaurant. It is actively used every day by groups, including the Athletics Club and the Disc Golf Club, as well as by local residents and dog walkers for recreation and exercise. So will the portfolio holder commit to correcting this statement on the Council's website to accurately reflect the genuine and significant impact the proposal to relocate the pitch and putt course to this much-loved green space would have on existing users and community groups? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also aware of extra use that's down there. I've been having conversations with sports clubs and some other users that I wasn't aware of, and I've asked council officers on the use of that area. So we're learning all the time. I'm happy to change the wording. I'm sure it wasn't on purpose. I'm sure the wording's more about the formal use of Downgrange and obviously not the full use. But yeah, I'm happy to look into the wording.
Thank you very much. Item 18 on the agenda. Are there any questions to the Chair of Cabinet or committees on the minutes listed? Well, I think that's a no. That's 8:48. I declare the meeting closed. Well